David Attenborough, polluting planet may become as reviled as slavery.
Here's a summary of the article.
The attitude of young people towards tackling the environmental crisis is a source of great hope, David Attenborough has told MPs, as he predicted that polluting the planet would soon be as discredited an action as slavery. Asked by the Tory MP Patrick McLaughlin, a committee member, whether the government's new commitment of net zero carbon emissions for the UK by 2050 was rapid enough, Attenborough said such targets were not necessarily the best approach. Asked by the Labour MP Vernon Coker to expand on how public attitudes were shifting, Attenborough replied, "There was a time in the 19th century when it was perfectly acceptable for civilized human beings to think that it was morally acceptable to actually own another human being for a slave. And somehow or other, in the space of 20 or 30 years, the public perception of that totally transformed." Asked for his most vivid impressions of the impact of humans on the planet, Attenborough recalled returning to the Great Barrier Reef off Australia, where he had first dived in the 1950s. Attenborough stressed that the important point was the overall picture. Skeptics will say, "I can take you to another place where glaciers grew, or something, or I can take you to a place where the coral reefs are flourishing, so it's difficult to pick one point and one site where you can actually say it's proof. It isn't. It's just an example." Asked about the impact of his Blue Planet 2 series on awareness about plastic in oceans, Attenborough said he had spent 20 years trying to raise awareness of the issue. Attenborough said he nonetheless never set out to be a campaigner. "I'm not by nature a propagandist. I started making natural history programs because I thought there was nothing I would prefer to see more than the beauty of the natural world. And I would love to just go on doing that. That's what I enjoy."
This post received a score of 59,773, with an upvote ratio of 87%. Here are the top comments in response to this article.
Wouldn't that be lovely? All I want is a planet somewhere far removed from the smog-filled air, with plenty of polar bears. Oh, wouldn't it be lovely? Edit. Okay, apparently vicious human hunting polar bears are not something to wish for. But if their home isn't shrinking, they can just stay put there. Greater than with plenty of polar bears. I'm not so sure about that.
Piles of polar bears. Billions and billions and billions and billions and billions and billions of polar bears.
Beans? Disappointed that wasn't Magical Trevor.
I didn't even click it because I was so sure it'd be old Trev and his leathery whip.
Nervous every time I see David Attenborough in a headline as he's 93 years old, but so far so good it seems.
Don't jinx it.
It'll be like that Stephen Hawking AMA.
Why, what happened then?
Someone said the same thing about Stephen Hawking in an article that came up about him, and the next day he was dead.
Holy shit, you fucking killed him, dude.
Please don't make my heart race like that.
A large piece of the world is still cool with slavery though.
Edit. I don't know why I'm being downvoted. Most African nations, India and China, still have slave labor. Eastern European countries like Poland hire North Korean workers to do factory work, which is direct slave labor. It happens in more countries than I mentioned, but these countries are already enough to be the majority of people on the planet.
The world's richest countries are the top buyers of goods at risk of being made by slaves.
This is probably the bare minimum I can do, but how can I start avoiding buying products that are made by slave labor? Is there an easy-to-use resource or list of companies somewhere? I'm also interested in donating to real, impactful environmental groups, but I don't know how to ensure I'm giving to someone reputable.
Google fair trade and say goodbye to cheap chocolate.
Chocolate is easy. $4 per Camino bar is not a problem. Coffee is easy too. Avoiding palm oil is tricky. Clothes is the tough one for poor people. Edit to add, sugar is another problematic one. Easy to use FT sugar in cooking, but sugar is in so many packaged foods. Best you can do is be smart about what has a gram of sugar and what has a cup of it.
Avoiding palm oil is nigh on impossible. It's sold and used in 60+ different forms with different names and pops up in tons of everyday items.
There are apps you can scan the barcodes to determine if a product is okay. Taught me that Walmart is filled with things that use bad palm oil. A real eye-opener. Cheyenne Mountain Zoo palm oil app is the best I've found.
This video was automatically created by Reddit to speech. The article and comments in this video were selected from Reddit according to their upvotes, and any paraphrasing was performed by smmry.com, without any human intervention.